Yes, it is. It is Canada Day. Look at this. I'm wearing Paul Henderson's. It's a replica jersey. Don't get all excited. Paul Henderson gave me this one. And right here is Ronnie Ellis's. Same. They wore it at the Maple Leaf Gardens for a 25th anniversary. And here is, just got this signed at the Hockey Hall of Fame for him, Yakashev. I met Yakashev a couple times in Moscow. Listen, you're watching Gouche Live featuring Paul Rosen. Paul is trying to get on. There's a little bit of a technical issue. And of course, this has been brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and of course, Paramount Sports Management. You need some ice, make sure you get over to Paramount Sports. Jeff will take care of you. Well, you can't get on the ice anyways because we're still in a pandemic. So you know what that means? When we're in a pandemic, we find the best guests. And I've got a great one right here. Allan Stitt. Not only is he a hockey collector extraordinaire, but more importantly, a hockey author, and that's just his part-time gig. Yeah, true. Allan, what's going on?
Not much, Gooch. I guess you couldn't get the best guests, so I'll sub in for them.
Oh, hang on a sec here. 128 game-worn Team Canada jerseys. Is that correct?
Yeah. Somewhere around there. Yeah.
It's about, I counted the list. Maybe I counted somebody twice. Unbelievable. So it's Canada Day. So we wanted to get somebody that had a little bit of experience with Canada. I know somebody say, hey, get a player, get a player. Players are the easy part. It's the history that's really exciting. And you've got a collection second to none outside of probably the Hockey Hall of Fame. If you don't mind me asking, we've gone back way back. We actually played in a little game together at the Team Canada 72. Ron Ellis and my very, very, very good friend Dick Davidson was there. I don't know if you remember Dick. He owned the flying fishing camp in Sioux Lookout. Unfortunately, we lost him a few years back, but it was the time of his life. And I know you and I had a bunch of fun too.
It was great fun. And quite a thrill. I was on a line once with Marcel Dion and JP Parise, and the three of us were on. We're about to go on the ice, and I remember this. I said, Marcel, which one of us is going to play center? He looks at me and he says, I got over 500 goals in the NHL. Who do you think's playing center?
So you went and played center.
What's that?
So you went and played center then.
No, yeah, not exactly.
That was an absolutely incredible time. They were so, and they still are, no question. I know we've lost a couple along the way. Obviously, Billy Stapleton, Billy White and Pat Stapleton, two just absolutely true gentlemen. And of course, all the other guys were just fantastic. Paul Henderson, what an incredible man. But our good friend, Ronnie Ellis. Is there a better person than Ronnie Ellis on this planet?
I met Ron.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was where I met Ron first time. Yeah, first time I met him was he was across from me. He was checking me, and we're getting ready for the face-off, and he gave me a couple of whacks.
So does that mean that I'm like a hockey dating service?
That's right, exactly.
Hey, listen, Al, I know we've only got 30 minutes with you. I know you're a very busy guy up at the cottage, probably having to cut the grass. How is it up there?
Absolutely gorgeous, but very hot. I think it's time to go back and jump in the lake.
Where is it? Yeah, I've told you that many times. What's the temperature up there?
I think it's about 30 Celsius around now.
Right.
Yeah.
And we hear it's going to be like that for probably 2 weeks.
For a few, well, I don't know. For a few days, certainly.
Tony told me a few weeks. And are you staying up there the whole time, or are you coming back?
No, back and forth.
Yeah, because you actually have a real job, right?
Not a real job, unfortunately. Yeah.
You're not really just do we call you a hockey collector? Is it what's the terminology people use?
I don't know. Certainly nothing planned, but just
let's call it hockey extraordinaire. And then you're an author.
Yeah. Now, actually, the books on hockey, I wasn't the author of them. Greg Oliver is the author.
Okay.
The books are written in blue and white, which is a book about Maple Leafs, old contracts and documents, and the other one is Blue Lines, Goal Lines, and Bottom Lines, and it's a book about other hockey documents other than Leafs documents.
And you've got, how many documents would you say you got?
I don't know.
Hockey documents, 1,000?
Yeah, thousands. I don't know. I've certainly never.
Have you read them all?
Well, obviously the contracts are very similar, so I haven't read each one because I I know what they say. The clauses are the same. The letters, of course, I've all read. Some old letters are there. Some of them are quite fun also.
Yeah, you've shown me a few. Have you got a contract for my years?
No, they're too expensive. I can't afford them.
I told you the last time they were written on toilet paper. Kind of lost them along the way. Hey, listen, we've got some great jerseys. I want to talk. It's obviously Canada Day. Obviously, with no hockey on, I thought it would be great just to talk a little bit about some of the great jerseys that you have and explain to us how you collect these. Obviously, through auctions. Are you given some? How do you go about? Because I'm sure it's a challenging world. I'm sure everybody wants a piece of these.
Yeah, different people collect different things and focus in different areas. And so Canadian hockey jerseys is an area that is of interest for me. So I keep an eye out for when things come up. The dealers know to contact me if they get something interesting, and I try to follow as many of the auctions as I can. And of course you get some and then you don't get some others. And then collectors also trade. I've had actually just a few trade offers this week. We're going back and forth on possibly trading some jerseys or buying and selling from each other. And the jersey collectors, it's a fun group and a very, very nice group, good people. And then that's how it works.
So it's like anything, collecting stamps or you're collecting hockey jerseys. But Allan, I've been to your office. We won't tell people where it is. I've been to your office. Is the room climate controlled for the jerseys, number one? And number two, you don't only have jerseys, you have sticks that are just out of this world.
Yeah, we try to keep it in a condition to preserve what we've got. I suspect it's not perfect, but I do my best.
It's fantastic. All right, first jersey up. Look at this. It is Dennis Potvins.
Yeah, that was from the World Championships, certainly, and
86
World Championships. Okay, so the New York Islanders were really a force in the early '80s. And they won 5 Stanley Cups in a row, of course. And there were a group of players on that team. There was Trottier, Bossy, Gillies, Potvin, Billy Smith, all in the Hall of Fame. Fantastic. I'm probably missing some too, who are in the Hall of Fame. But just a fantastic team. But when the teams don't make the playoffs, as you know, Kerry, they take the best players and take them to the World Championships. And as the Oilers started to dominate in the late '80s, this was obviously a year where the Islanders, either they didn't make it or they lost in the first round. They took a few players, lost in the first round, and then they went to the World Championships. And this was a sweater he wore in the World Championships.
And they won a bronze medal that year. He had 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points. As a pretty dynamic defenseman.
Yeah. Yeah. Now he was normally number 5, but obviously somebody else had number 5, or he wanted.
Would that be Larry Robertson?
Larry Robinson would have been 19.
19, sorry.
And I think that might have been after. I'm not sure. That may have been after his time, '86. I'm not sure. I'd have to. But you know what could have very well happened is there may have been. It may have been that the Islanders lost in the first round. The team would have already been there. They already had their numbers. And so he came as a late addition, and there probably weren't a lot of numbers left. And he just chose the one that was closest to his number 5. That's my guess.
All right. As I bring up this next jersey, I'll go do a little bit of investigation. This one, a great defenseman also.
Yeah. So this is from the Canada Cup. And the Canada Cup, of course, was a tournament started in '76 and then later became the World Cup. And Ray Bourque was a fantastic Hall of Fame defenseman who was known for playing almost all of his career with the Boston Bruins, and until at the end of his career he went to the Avalanche, where he won his Stanley Cup, and it was a very emotional time when he carried the cup around the ice. But he was a fantastic defenseman and an all-star for many years and a Hall of Famer, as I say.
And also in that particular, they won the gold. I guess it's not really the gold, but they won the Canada Cup against Sweden 2-0, and he had 4 assists.
Ah, very good.
Oh, I did my work. Amazing what Wikipedia can do for you.
Yeah.
No, I gave Kevin Shea a call. Kevin wanted to be on today, but unfortunately got tied up. So he helped me with some of the stats. And now we're going to move to Daryl Sittler. 1981 Canada Cup. I looked all over the place to find him on the roster. You have a story about this.
I do. Now, Darryl Sittler is known for many things. He's known as a very famous Maple Leaf captain, known for scoring 10 points in a game for the Maple Leafs. And one of the things he's most known for is scoring the winning goal in the '76 Canada Cup. And it was an iconic moment when he faked his shot. Actually, I think Don Cherry told him he's coming out too far. If you get in on him, fake a shot, he'll go down, and then you can go around him and score. And that's exactly what Sittler did. And he's known for the '76 Canada Cup. People don't know that he was also invited to try out for the team in '81. And this is the sweater that he wore during the tryouts and the pre-tournament games in '81. And then he actually didn't make the team in '81. So that's why when you looked at the roster, you couldn't find him. But he did play in the pre-tournament games in '81. That's what this is from.
All right. I am obviously Vladimir Drzula was a coach over in Germany, and I got to play an exhibition game. He was coaching, and I got to play against his team. And unfortunately, I think it was in 1995, if I'm not mistaken, he passed away at the age of only 53, young, from a heart attack in Frankfurt.
That is a sad moment. He was an excellent goalie. And for the Czech team, and that's who Sittler scored on in the finals. And
very famous, one of the all-time greatest. Listen, of course, you can't have Team Canada, you can't have Canada Day with obviously an incredible jersey. 1991 Canada Cup. Yeah,
and Wayne Gretzky, if not the greatest of all time, and we can have that discussion when we get to one of the other jerseys. But he was certainly one of the greatest of all time, and played in a number of Canada Cups and was a star in the Canada Cups. And particularly people remember, I think, the '87 Canada Cup when he made that pass to Lemieux and scored in Hamilton to win that game with Larry Murphy there. Was beside Gretzky, and he dropped the pass back to Lemieux, who scored. But this was from the '91 Canada Cup, which was the next Canada Cup after '87, when he wore this sweater.
They actually won that series against the U.S. 7 games. Gretz had 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points. So pretty productive Canada Cup again.
He was always productive.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm looking down the list. I don't see another Gretzky jersey on it, but I did look on your long list. You have a bunch of these. So these jerseys, are they also significant? Can you, when you do have one, can you pull it up and let us know if it's significant? For example, I know that you've got an Iginla jersey that's coming up, and I will ask you a question about it. And then this one's really cool. This is a classic.
Yeah, so this is Eric Lindros from the World Juniors in '92, I believe. Eric was, of course, they called him the next one. They thought he was going to be a star, which of course he was. He was a fantastic star, and unfortunately, concussions shortened his career. But just an incredible hockey player. But in '92 in the World, he wore this in the World Juniors. He also ended up, I believe, playing the Olympics that year.
Yes.
He played. So he was, even before he was in the NHL, he was prominent in all kinds of international tournaments because he was such an incredible hockey player.
Well, and you know what? An incredible tournament too. 7 games. 2 goals, 8 assists for 10 points at a very young age. Those are big numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
Listen, I see Paul in the background here. So that's the back of the jersey, the Eric Lindo. What a difference between then and now, the quality.
Yeah.
Let's get, hey, Paul, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Hey, Alan. Hey, Gooch. A tough time getting on today, but I'm in the Mercedes studios sitting in my sister's driveway. Another new for Gooch Live featuring Paul Rosen.
Hey, look at where I'd rather be where Alan is, for God's sakes. He's up at some resort camp or something like that.
Yep. That looks beautiful. I'm going to bend my shirt, my phone down here to show you I'm wearing a Canada T-shirt today.
Well, we just finished Gretzky's, I guess it was 91 Canada Cup. And then we had Eric Lindros, 92 World Juniors. And he did play for the Olympics when I was doing some investigations on him. And of course, he had 10 points in 7 games in that World Juniors. Is he the all-time leading scorer of the World Juniors? You know that, Paul?
If he wasn't, it was taken over recently. But I think he's still. If he isn't, is right up there. Might have been the last Allan. The last couple of tournaments. One of the younger guys might have dominated, but I think he's right up there.
I think you're right, Rosie. I think that because I remember hearing something over the last couple of years that somebody was challenging his record. I can't remember who it was though. And it would have been someone who played as an underage player in the World Juniors and then played again. You'd have to play multiple years to get the record.
Yeah. So as we go to the next, as we go to the next jersey, I'll go off and I'll find you that out. Listen, happy Canada Day, everyone, from our European correspondent. Shoppy's saying hello to us, so that's fantastic. And we'll go to Steve Rosen. Paul, your brother's on, and he's asking, Gretzky was the only player to have CCM logos on both sides of the back of his jersey. He kept one tucked in. Okay, I did not know that.
He also, if you go to you can't see it on the photo from the Gretzky sweater that I have, but inside there's a little piece of Velcro at the bottom that he attaches to the back of inside his pants so that it doesn't come out. So there's actually a tiny piece of Velcro on the inside of the sweater.
Yeah, because cool. You're right. Look at these. There are 2 CCMs.
Yeah. Wow. And that's different from the pro sweater, which has the fighting strap, which is always called the fighting strap, even though it's still there and there's not really fighting, to hook on to the pants. His was different, yeah.
All right, this is a very special jersey, of course, because we all know that Keith and I are very good friends and a big supporter of the Stop Concussion platform. And, of course, a big fan of Paul Rosen. Keith Primo, number 55, 98 in Japan. Tell us about that. How'd you get this one?
Frankly, Gooch, because of you, I'm always looking out for Keith Primo jerseys. That's the truth.
Don't you let me know? I can actually give him a call and get one.
Yeah, I know. But I happened to see this one at an auction, and so I thought his Olympic jersey. That's one I have to get. I also have one of his from the World Championships, which is quite a nice sweater. But he was, of course, on the Olympic team in '98 that went to Japan, and that was the first year that the NHL players were playing in the Olympics, and Canada was certainly favored to do quite well. And as everyone remembers, they lost in that shootout and didn't even get to the gold medal game. It was kind of disappointing. But I suspect, in retrospect, it's playing in the Olympics is probably still a pretty cool memory for Keith.
Well, what about, if you don't mind? Yeah, sorry, Paul, go.
I was just going to say that was the famous Mark Crawford not taking Gretzky to take a penalty shot on Dominic Hasek.
That's right.
So in that particular tournament, let's see, Keith registered only 3 points. Gretzky had 4 points, but no goals.
Yeah, that was what Mark Crawford said. I mean, Gretzky was getting on a bit at that point. He was at the end of his career in '98, of course. And Mark Crawford said he just wasn't one of his top guys. And the fans were saying, yeah, we have one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. They come through when it matters most. And he should have used Gretzky, but we'll never know what would have happened if Gretzky had taken a shot.
Hey guys, I want to just, I went in and Googled, of course, used it. It states right here, Peter Forsberg, World Junior Championships, 42 points. Robert Reichel, 40 points. Pavel Bure, 39. McGillney, 35. Esa Tikkanen, 35. Naslund, Marcus Naslund, 34. Sundstrom, 33. Kessinen, 32, and Eric Lindros came in at 31, top 10.
The top Canadian, right? So that was it was the most points ever by a Canadian at the World Juniors.
Wow. All right, so look at this one. This is another nice one. Of course, just elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame this year. Probably one of the nicest human beings you'll meet, Jerome McGinley.
Yeah, this sweater I've always really liked. It's a heritage sweater, and I think a beautiful design. Gooch, if you want to switch back to the front just to have a look at it again.
Absolutely.
It's a design that we never saw. We saw for one game, and the game was the opening game of the '02 Olympics against Sweden. Canada was upset in that game, and they never wore this sweater again. And I think it's probably because they were upset in that game. But I love that. You know, they went on to win the Olympics, so no harm done. I would love it if they would go back and wear this sweater again, because I think it's pretty. A beautiful, beautiful design.
He scored 3 goals and had an assist in that, and a very successful tournament for not only him but also Team Canada. Paul, you were there, weren't you?
Yeah, Salt Lake.
I was there at the Olympics. Yeah, I was at this game.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, it was my first Olympics. Salt Lake was my first Olympics. But Allan, like you said, with them losing that first game and then changing, having a chance to play in 3 Olympics with Canada in Salt Lake, Torino, and Vancouver, Hockey Canada made it known if you were playing well, the sweater could last forever in a design. But once you lost the game, the design usually went out the window fast.
So, Allan, you were actually at the game also.
I was, yeah.
Yep.
I don't remember the call. I don't remember seeing it, but
well, it was probably another 17,000 people at the E Center in Salt Lake, so that's all right.
That's right.
So we got Miss Tanner saying happy Canada Day to us, guys. We've got obviously our Eric Kuzak saying happy Canada Day. What a great day to be talking Hockey Canada and all these great jerseys that we have from Allan. He's okay. There's the Gretzky again. Let's go to another jersey. This is a nice one too. I love this one.
Yeah, this is also from the '02 Olympics. This particular sweater was worn during the Czech game. If you go to the back of it again, if you notice on the left-handed 6 at the bottom left corner, there's a little black slash mark. And if you look at photos of the game, when you see Lemieux going back to congratulate the goalie after the game, it was a tie game. It was 3-3. If you go, you can actually see that mark on the back of the sweater. You know, you talked last time about how sweater collectors try to photo match our sweaters, and this one was photo matched by that slash mark on the back to a photo at the end of the game when he's going back to congratulate the goalie on having a good game.
Here's a comment, Paul. You maybe can. It's your brother again saying that that was the game Cujo started, replaced by Brodeur. Is he talking about the game in 2002?
Yeah, the Czech game.
Yeah, in Salt Lake.
So in that particular Olympics, Mario had 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points.
Yeah, very good tournament. He had a key goal, obviously, in the American game and to win the gold medal.
Sitting right behind me is... Yeah, go Paul.
That gold medal game was quite a game. Some real nice Sakic with some beauty, and again they played very well in that game. That was a solid game.
Just an all-star roster. It was just. Here's a great jersey. We're going to move to Team Canada 72. I've got a replica of it there. Ron had given it to me when I was working with Vicel Marketing, if you remember that way back, Allan. Yep. So I got that, and then Paul Henderson got me this one. So it's kind of cool to have. And there's the back of the jersey. This is the original jersey from the 1972.
Yeah, so this is the red. We saw last time the white Cornouaille. This is the red Team Canada sweater that was worn for the 4 games in Canada. Ron, of course, was one of a very few players who played all 8 games. And this particular sweater spent a chunk of time in the Hall of Fame. You can see the Hall of Fame plaque there in the bottom right corner. Yep. And Ron, of course, had the unenviable task of trying to keep Kharlamov in check. And John Ferguson, who was the coach, was a big fan of Ron's because he had seen what Ron had done and wanted to make sure that Ron got on the team because he knew that there would be some guys that Ron needed to cover, and he thought Ron was the right guy, the top guy he needed to cover the best Russian player, and that's what Ron did. Very, very important role in winning that tournament for sure.
Well, obviously a guy that you're going to love, Paul. A great looking jersey here, Mr. Bobby Hull.
Yeah, this
my favorite.
And this was just a quick story about Bobby Hull. Many people know, of course, that in '72, he was the most notable omission from the team that played in the '72 Canada-Russia series. He and Jerry Cheevers, I guess, were the two key guys that certainly would have made the team, but for the fact that the WHA was starting up, and they had both jumped to the WHA, and the NHL would have nothing of the WHA and didn't want to support it and punished anybody who had jumped to the WHA by not giving them a chance to play for the team. So Bobby Hull didn't get a chance to play for the '72 Team Canada. His first chance to play for the full Team Canada, he played in '74, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But in his first chance to play with the NHL guys in Team Canada was in '76 when Canada, of course, won on the Sittler goal that we talked about earlier.
So he did play in the '74
what a goal! I love that goal.
Yeah, he did because he was with the WHA. That was the WHA series, but he didn't play in '72 with in the famous Summit series.
All right, we'll move on to another tremendous jersey. Mike Bossy, going back to that '81 team. And Alan, I had looked up the team roster. There's Mr. Bossy. Wayne Gretzky, Mike Bossy, Brian Trottier, Guy Lafleur, Gilbert Perreault, Clark Gillies, Dennis Potvin, Danny Gare, Marcel Dion, Butch Goring, Ray Bork, Bob Gainey, Rick Middleton, Ron Duguay, Brian Ingram, Larry Robinson, Kenny Linsman, Barry Beck, Paul Reinhardt, and in goal, Don Edwards and Mike Liute. How crazy is that team?
Yeah, what a team. Now it's not a surprise that Daryl Sittler didn't make it, I guess, eh?
That's right. Now, was he aging at that time? Sittler would have been okay at that age?
Yeah, he was still pretty good. It was just that was a stacked team. And Mike Bossy, of course, one of the stars who with the Islanders, one of those top guys who won those 5 Stanley Cups in a row in the early '80s. And was I don't know, I suspect Gooch, you're going to tell us how he did in the Canada Cup, but he was a fantastic goal scorer. He used to say too that they used to say, how do you keep picking the corners and how do you keep getting those spots? And he says, my shot is so wild. I aim for the middle of the net and it just goes crazy and it seems to hit the corners.
Sorry, I apologize. I got a little bit of a lag here. So
yeah, Mike Bossy, one of the
keep going, Paul.
Yeah.
So we talked about
this Mike Bossy, one of the absolute best natural goal scorers.
Alan, we talked about this jersey before. I just wanted to bring it back up because there's a couple of people that asked me to see if we could find the Paul Henderson original jersey, but I'm sure you could tell us that it was sold on auction for a pretty big penny. Or is it the one that's in the Hockey Hall of Fame?
No, it's actually owned by a private collector. It's not, I can say it. It's not he doesn't keep it a secret. It's actually a friend of mine named Mitchell Goldhar who owns Smart Center. And the sweater went touring to all of the Smart Centers. Paul toured with it, Paul Henderson. Mitch was a very nice guy. He was a great hockey player and a big hockey fan. And he ended up buying that sweater at auction probably about 10 years ago now, I would guess.
And it, as we know, went for a pretty decent sum of money.
It did. Went for a lot. There were a number of museums that were bidding, I believe, as well.
And then this jersey that I just showed you was the Yvonne Cornway. You talked a little bit about the last time. Look at how short it is, and it's completely cut, not only by the body, but also the arms are cut off.
Yeah, it's actually even shorter than it looks in the photo, because he used to take a scissors to his sweater and As soon as he got a new sweater, even with the Montreal Canadiens, the trainer used to give him his new sweater and a pair of scissors so he could cut off the arms and cut off the bottom of the sweater to be the way he liked it.
Really incredible. So I got a question from Sam Trapolino, who joins us every morning out of Adelaide. I don't know what time it is. It's probably about 6 o'clock in the morning, and he gets up to watch this. His question to you, Allan, is a very simple one for us, but probably difficult for you. Allan, which is your favorite jersey in your collection?
Wow, that's tough. Good eye, Sam.
Good eye, mate.
I don't know that I have. The one that is my favorite seems to keep changing. I like different ones at different times. I love some of the really old ones that we showed on the last show, the 1938s and the 1952, 56, those 64 and 68 Olympics. I love those styles. They're not as the players aren't as famous, so there's not Gretzky. So the most famous ones would be the Gretzky or the Orr that we're going to see in a bit. But I'm not sure that I have one. People ask me that too. If there's a fire and you can only grab one, which one do you grab? And I'm not sure. I probably hesitate too long and I don't get to keep any of them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, obviously, speaking of Orr, this is a really sweet jersey, of course. He was eligible to play for Team Canada 72, but unfortunately, due to an injury, he was unable to make it.
That's right. He was. They just won the Stanley Cup in '72, and he went to the camp in the summer, but he had to have knee surgery, so he was unavailable. And actually tries to stay away from. The Team Canada '72 guys want to include him in things, but he tries to stay away because he feels like it's taking away from the players who actually played. In '76, he was the star of that '76 Canada Cup. He completely dominated the ice when he was on. Frankly, he dominated the ice throughout his entire career whenever he was on the ice. And for me, I've never seen a player, even Gretzky, dominate the way he did. Maybe it's because he was a defenseman and that gave him more angles to dominate with. But he would just so completely control a game as he did in the '76 Canada Cup. And then sadly, after '76, his career was basically over. He played a few games with the Chicago Blackhawks, but basically his career was done after '76. That was his final starring role, and then that was it.
So do you think, is that Paul when he went to the Chicago Blackhawks? Was it after that he ended up being with the Hawks?
Yeah. And lots of stories about that the Bruins had made him an offer, and there's a question of whether Alan Eagleson properly presented the offer and different views. We don't need to get into that.
No, of course.
But he ended up going to the Chicago Blackhawks, and he tried really hard to play. And when he played basically on one leg, he was still a point-a-game guy as a defenseman with the Blackhawks, which is ridiculous. But he just couldn't do it, and he had to retire after a few games.
Allan, those are all the jerseys I put up today because I know we only had 30 minutes with you. But here's a really cool one. Somebody had asked me, it was actually Adam Cox, and he's got another question for you. This one. Tell us about the blue jersey. It is incredible.
I don't know why they went to a blue jersey in the late '70s, but there were a couple of blue jerseys that they went to. There was one for the World Championships and one for the World Juniors. That particular one was Craig Hartsburg from the World Juniors in '79. It's obviously Canada blue is not a Canadian color particularly, but frankly, it's a beautiful, beautiful sweater. And I really like it as a style. I have no idea why Canada used a blue one, but it is a really nice sweater.
There's a question that came from Adam. I was looking for the jersey. He had, and I'm sure you're going to have an answer for this one.
Sure.
It's hard to find a picture of the green 1956 jersey and why the color change.
56. I'm not sure what he means by the green.
Adam, can you maybe text us really quickly? We'll let you know on the question. Orr played 13 games in 2 seasons, gave his salary back, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
With no disrespect to Gretzky, Orr was the very best. It's always cool.
I'm afraid I agree.
You do?
I
really?
Yeah. And maybe it's because I was younger when I saw Orr, but my memory of Bobby Orr is just so completely controlling. You know, I remember one game I was at, a Leafs-Bruins game, where the Bruins got a penalty. Orr took the puck and basically played keep away for the entire 2 minutes while the Leafs chased him all around the ice. He would pass it to somebody, would pass it back, and pass it to someone who would pass it back. And basically he was so skilled that he would control a game to such a degree. In his best season as a defenseman, I think he had 48 goals and over 100 assists, and he was something like plus 125 or something completely absurd like that. He was just so, that doesn't count the power play where he was at his best. He was just unbelievably dominant.
So do you think that the change of the game with Orr versus the change of the game with Gretzky going down to LA, which one of those do you think made the most amount of impact on the NHL?
Well, they both impacted it in a different way. Orr changed the game in terms of how defensemen played. There were some defensemen like Tim Horton who would jump up periodically, but the Gretzky going down to LA really built up the game in the States, and particularly Southern California, and that was very important for the growth of the NHL. So it was they were both important in their own ways in terms of the growth of the game. Bobby Orr didn't need to grow the game in Boston; it was already an important sport in Boston. He grew the game in the sense of how defensemen played. Gretzky more grew the game in terms of growing it in the States.
So for you then, you saw Orr play, you saw Gretzky play, of course. You've seen some of the greatest players. Who's the most famous player? Let's leave those aside. Who's the most famous player you saw, like a Maurice Richard? Again, I don't want to age us too much. I don't recall Maurice Richard. I think I was probably not born when he was either at the tail end of his. Who's the one that you got to see play that a lot of people would be just jealous to say, God, I wish I would have seen him play?
Well, I think the one who most people say is of course Bobby Orr, but the one who I loved watching the most, because I was a Maple Leaf fan growing up, was Davey Keon.
Yes.
And he was my guy. He was the person I dreamed about being. And when I played road hockey, I always wanted to be Dave Keon. And when I played, I always wanted to get number 14. I just absolutely loved the way he played. He was so strong, but he didn't fight. He killed penalties, power play, and scoring, and he was a defensive forward, an offensive forward. He just did everything, and he was voted the number one Maple Leaf of all time. I obviously would agree with that because he was my guy. But being able to see him play every day as a Leaf fan growing up was absolutely fantastic.
And this guy, he was not very big. He was a very tiny man.
He was not big, but he was super, super strong. And you couldn't really push him off the puck because he was so strong. And he didn't fight, not because he couldn't. People didn't want, and not because he was small. People didn't want to take him on because he was so strong, so powerful.
What was the first game you saw? Yeah, you remember?
Yeah, first game I saw was, I believe, 66. It was the Leafs and the Blackhawks. I remember Bobby Hull coming down and scoring a goal on Johnny Bower, and the crowd booing that they thought Bower should have saved it. And I remember looking at the program and seeing Allan Stanley and thinking he spells his name Allan the same way I do. That was very exciting for me.
Yeah.
But that I remember that very well. That was my first game, was the Leafs Chicago.
So 1966, how old would you have been?
I would have been 5.
Think about all the games that you got to see at the Maple Leaf Gardens. Is there one, before they went to, obviously, the Scotiabank Center now, is there one game that you just say, wow, I was so blessed to be in the rink?
There was actually. The game that is most memorable for me was a playoff game between the Leafs and the St. Louis Blues, when in the second overtime, Doug Gilmour was behind the net and went one way and stopped, and went the other and stopped and went back and scored. And many reasons why it was so memorable. It was an incredibly intense game. Cujo was playing unbelievably well. Couldn't score on him. And my seats were the end Blues, right on top of where Gilmour did that move. So and as you remember, Gouche and Maple Leaf Gardens, the seats are almost hanging over the ice. Yeah. So the Blues are almost on the ice because they're hanging over. So I'm looking down. I'm right above Gilmore, and as he's making those moves behind the net, I could see that last move looked like he was going to work. It was going to work if he didn't mess it up. And so, we're jumping up excited right before it goes in because we could see it happening. That's probably my strongest memory of a game at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Now think about that. Of all the games, and it was an incredible move, and Cujo couldn't get over in time. But think about Montreal, some of the rivalries, like those Toronto-Montreal games, even some of the Toronto-Boston games, where they were just so intense. And that's that's one of your greatest moments. That's unbelievable.
Yep. And the Toronto-Philadelphia games in the mid-'70s, those playoff games were intense when the Broad Street Bullies used to beat up the Leafs, and I remember Dave the Hammer Schultz holding on to Salmon.
Absolutely.
John Selesky punching away at him, and it was those were rough games. And the games against the Canadians were certainly memorable. I'll tell you just really one quick story.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The game after the Leafs beat the Islanders in 7 games, and I believe it was 1978 in the first round of the playoffs. They played the Canadians, who were a complete powerhouse. The Canadians were up 3-0, and then the fourth game went to overtime. And what I used to do with my friends when it went to overtime is we used to throw in $5 each, and we used to pick players, and whoever scored got the $20. So we're going into overtime, and we're all picking players, and we're basically done. And the guy in the row behind us says, "Can I join in?" And we said, "Well, no, we're basically done." And he says, "Well, aren't there any players left on either team?" And I said, "Well, yeah, just one guy on each team." There was Dennis Duperre on the Leafs and Cam Connor on the Canadians, who nobody. And he said,
Cam Connor, I played against Cam Connor.
He says, "I'll throw in my $5 and I'll take those 2 guys just to have some fun." And of course, who scores the overtime goal? Cam Connor.
Cam Connor, Flin Flon, Manitoba. And he's a tough guy. Like, he was a tough guy.
He is. He barely played the whole game. And the guy behind us won the $25. I'll never forget Cam Connor scoring that goal because of that.
Oh my God. And like, he wasn't a classic. Like, honestly, the kid was tough. I got to tell you that. I remember that specifically. Okay, final thing before we leave. Obviously, you said in 1966 you were at a game. Was it 1966?
I believe so.
And you said you were around 6 years old?
5, yep.
5. So at 6, the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Be honest, do you remember it?
No. And I hate that I don't remember it.
And were you at the game?
No. I really hate that I don't remember it. I would have been 6 years old by then. And I definitely remember going to that game against Chicago. And I know it was that season because Alan Stanley was still on the team and he wasn't on the team the next year. And I remember seeing his name in the program and being really excited about how he spelled his name. So I know it was that season, but I have no recollection of the cup, the winning cup in 6. I have some memories of the next season, but I don't have memories of the Stanley Cup. It kills me that I can't remember it, but I can't.
Well, here's a kind of funny one here. Steve Rosen, Paul Rosen's son. We lost, brother. We lost Paul. I guess the satellite dish on top of his Mercedes studio kind of broke down or something. You've got better internet than he has. He's in Toronto, and you're way up north enjoying the lake.
That's right.
Steve had tickets for the 1970 battles between the Leafs and the Flyers, and Ace Bailey was a penalty timekeeper, and he got punched during a brawl.
He was the penalty time. Those series that I'm sure he did. I don't actually remember that, but I'm sure that happened. They were definitely scrambling over each other in the penalty boxes to get at each other. I'm sure that happened. That's really funny.
All right, well, let's go here after this one. Have you been a lifelong collector? And tell us how you got into this. Like, obviously, at 5, you had your first experience, fell in love with the game. Obviously, you've experienced the Toronto Maple Leafs, because your Toronto Maple Leaf collection is even more impressive than the Hockey Canada jersey collection. One day we will revisit that. How did you get involved? How did you fall in love with it?
So I have been a lifelong collector of stuff. And I think it's just a gene. You either have the collector gene or you don't, and I do. But I started actually by I would send letters to players, all the Leaf players and the players I liked on the other teams. I'd send them a little piece of cardboard, and I'd ask them to send me back an autographed picture and to sign the piece of cardboard for me. And an incredibly large percentage of players actually sent back a signed photo. Often it was to Allan, best wishes, signed by the player, and most of them also signed this little piece of cardboard, and I kept them in a scrapbook. And then I used to hang around the Wood Street driveway where the players used to come out of at the end of the game, and try to get autographs after the game and collect autographs and put them in the scrapbook also. And that certainly got me to collecting, and then that led to contracts and documents, and led to sweaters and sticks and other things.
All right, you know what? We piqued the interest. I can't let you go without putting this up. Aaron Kuzak from Melbourne, Australia, has sent this jersey in. That is incredible. Thank you, Aaron. Do you know this jersey?
That's unbelievable. That I don't know that. It would have been.
Hang on, I think he said what it was from.
40s, I assume.
I think he said where it's from. Hang on one sec. Oh gosh, hang on. I'm gonna get you one more picture as we go here. And he's got a date. Wait till you see this picture. Thank you, Aaron, for doing that. That's kind of cool.
I'd be interested to see what the back looks like too. So that because it may very well have been one of the amateur teams that went to the Olympics. That would have been their regular sweater, and then they just stuck that Olympic logo.
That's the question that came to us. It's the 1956 Cortina Olympics.
Oh, it's a 56. Okay. All right. I showed the 52 last time. But that's what a beautiful sweater. Wow.
Yeah, but hang on. Watch this next picture. You're going to love this one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron, for doing this. Holy crap. All the way from Australia. Just let me pull it up.
I've never seen that style before. It's a beautiful sweater.
Wait till you see this one. Okay, let's put it in. Here it comes, Allan. This one's cool. Look at that.
Very nice.
So that's his father.
Denny.
That's Berger's father.
Yeah, Denny.
I'm wondering, did his father play in that jersey?
It may very well be. And of course, Martin Brodeur, the Hall of Fame goalie, is his son. Denny Brodeur was obviously too. He was a fantastic photographer. Took many.
Yes, he did.
Iconic pictures.
But was he not a goalie?
I think he was, and that's probably is his sweater and his mask. I'm guessing.
All right. Well, that's piqued our interest. Thank you for that, Aaron. We're going to do some research. I'm going to find some stuff out. That's kind of cool.
That's great. Beautiful sweater, though. I love the sweater.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Allan, as we let you go, it's unbelievable. There's so much history, obviously, in this game, and you've got a very big chunk of it, of course. Listen, it was the Kitchener-Waterloo Dutchman.
Oh, yeah. So that would have been the amateur team that went in 56.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so that was the jersey that Adam was talking about. And I guess they must have, a year later, they must have changed. It's Jim Logan, 1956. Jim Logan.
As I say, I've actually never seen that one before. So
all right, we stumped the expert.
Yeah, no, not the expert, but so I certainly don't know why they went to that color and changed.
All right. Well, next time we get together, we'll do this in a couple of weeks. We will have some answers for people because you know what? It's really exciting. On the back, we've got a lot of questions on the right-hand side. I just won't be able to get to. But Allan, thank you so much for taking time out. Obviously, being up at the lake. What are you going to do for the rest of the day? You going water skiing?
Going for a swim for sure. It's hot.
Yeah.
I'm going in the water.
Well, thank God you don't have your collection of jerseys up there.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Allan. Thank you so much for taking time out.
Thanks, Gooch. Thanks.
Always a pleasure. Fantastic collection. Really honored to have you as a friend, bud.
All right, me too. Bye-bye.
Hey, buddy. Bye. Allan Stitt. My goodness. Listen, I apologize today. We had a little bit of a technical issue. Of course, it's always difficult when you're playing with the internet. Paul apologized. He sent me a note saying he was so excited about being on because we did pull out one of his jerseys, which is an absolutely incredible jersey. Paul, obviously, as you know, played in the Olympics in not only in Salt Lake City, but in Torino, where he was obviously a champion. And just let me see if I can find it. I think I got it right here. There's the back of his jersey. What an incredible jersey. He still has this jersey, of course, in his collection. To put the Team Canada jersey, I have not officially put the Team Canada jersey on, but here's Paul Rosen's 2006 gold medal in Torino jersey. Wow, what an incredible jersey. We'd love to have him here to give us some time to talk about it. I'm sure you've heard some of the stories, but there's always a story that we've never heard. And I know when we get Paul back in the next couple of weeks, well, obviously he'll be back here, but we'll talk jerseys again in the next couple of weeks, and we'll bring that one up. Hey, listen, honestly, Allan Stitt, thank you so much for taking some time out. This guy literally has 128, and I would even add some to it, 128 Team Canada jerseys. I can't even tell you how many jerseys he's got. Can't even begin to tell you how many Toronto Maple Leaf jerseys he has in his collection. It'd be nice to find those numbers out. All right. Okay, listen, it's Canada Day. Thank you for taking some time. Steve, thank you. Torino gold medal winner, number 57, 3-0 win against Norway. Paul has told us that. He played absolutely amazing, and he wears that gold medal with pride. It is Canada Day. So everyone out there, thank you, thank you, thank you for taking time out to be with us on Canada Day. You're watching Gooch Live featuring Paul Rosen. Paul will be with us tomorrow as we have Wayne Primo and his son Mason. Mason was drafted by the Las Vegas Knights. Think about that. Keith Primo, his son Caden, drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, has already played a game in the nets for the Montreal Canadiens, and his brother Wayne has a son that is drafted by the Las Vegas Knights. What a family. His mom and dad are just two wonderful human beings, and we'll get a chance to talk to, they call him Superman, Mr. Wayne Primo. All right, guys, thank you. Thank you for having a great day with us, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we interview Wayne Primo and his son, Mason. Good night, guys.
Let's play some hockey.